You're watching the Vince Sterling Podcast.
Doug was born in Australia and has worked in the film industry for 37 years. He became one of the youngest directors in Australia at the age of 24 and has written such mega blockbusters such as Cloudy with a Chance of Lasagna in 1997, which grossed over $100 million in its first week in box office. Space Brawl 2080, Quincy and the Tiny Pair, and my personal favorite, Virtually Yours, a dystopic romantic comedy where dating apps in virtual reality are the norm and an introverted programmer accidentally creates the perfect digital companion, causing chaos in both the real world and the virtual world. He is known for his love of special effects and disdain for artificial intelligence and CGI. Please welcome Doug Bloom. Welcome, Doug Bloom.
Good day.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Doug?
Yeah, so you've seen a couple of my movies, I heard.
I have.
Long career, 37 years, is it now? I don't know, it's been quite a while. Been directing, writing, filming, everything, but recently it's been really tough, not gonna lie. Yeah. My career is kind of adapted throughout the times, and it's been recently pretty tough on me, not gonna lie. People are really changing how the industry's working and everything, and it's really not been favorable to me, so that's why I'm here today.
Interesting. So I think what I'm gathering from here is that you're talking about the writer and actors strike that has caused all sorts of problems in your industry. Would you tell us a little bit about this and exactly what that looks like to you?
Yes. We all know what's happening. The actors, writers, everyone's protesting right now, and it's for a good reason. Honestly, everything's getting so up right now. We got all the robots writing the scripts and dreadful. It's impossible. You can't get a robot to be funny. And I'm sitting there. I've been working on my projects. I've had a couple movies I've been working on recently, and I'm sitting there, and they're coming up to me saying, "Oh, your crew's got to get cut. You gotta get rid of people. You gotta have a certain amount of writers in your room." And it's f***ing nuts. Honestly, it's crazy. They expect me to make the same quality shit I've been making for dozens of years, and it's impossible. Honestly, it is. And I think people, they need to hold their ground. The actors, everyone on strike right now, they need to make sure they're not getting wiped out by these robots. They need to make sure that they're keeping their place, and the film industry stays in the successful state it's been in for so many years. There's a reason that people have been making good films for such a long time, and people enjoy them.
And so, what sort of film companies have you worked for?
I've been all around. It's been DreamWorks, Sony Pictures, the Warner Brothers, everything. Been all around. Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, it's just weird because you work with so many different groups of people, and you think, maybe this company's wrong, or this company's screwing me over in a different way. But over the past 5 or 6 years, I've been realizing everything's this big conglomerate that's f***ing everyone over, and it's disgusting. It's like dystopian world that we're living in, and everything is coming to this historic state, and it's just dreadful, honestly, the whole state of the industry right now. So I think these strikes need to keep going on, mate.
You said that before, that this is getting into a dystopic period. Last episode I met with Nathan Sharma from Synth Animations. You know of him, right?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
And he had only good things to say about your film Cloudy with a Chance of Lasagna. He said that it was a part of his life since he was a child. He is even offered to work with you and do animations in your movies. Considering your feelings towards AI and film, what would you say to his offer?
Well, he's a great guy. Had a lovely chance a couple times to chat to him. His work is great. I appreciate it, but I think he knows kind of where I stand. My work is not really to do with it. I like keeping things very separate. For me, the whole making of a film is supposed to be so raw and authentic. Unlike, not necessarily that he's working with it now, but some of the work he's done has been some of this big blockbuster work, and you got a bunch of people in green suits, green screens, little bulbs in their suits, and everything that they're working on isn't what film was supposed to be in the first place. And you have all these people, and you get to see a good end product, but the whole production and the whole team and the process of making film, that's why everyone's so inspired about it in the first place. And when these all the technology's kind of taken over, it's not the same, and you're not going to get the same quality, you're not going to get the same value, emotion, and yeah, everything's just getting taken out of it. So I think he knows where I stand. I respect the lad, but I would not want to work with any technology.
So let's just change lanes here for a second and get back to what we were talking about, the strikes. So what sort of resolution do you see with these strikes? And when I say resolution, like, I'd like you to Iron Man it. You know, I'd like to find out what you think is going to actually happen, and I'd like to know what you think about how sustainable that desire of yours is for movement against artificial intelligence, considering that AI is going to become so ubiquitous into the future. What do you think the future of films is going to actually be?
Alright, well, on its current state, it's going to be dreadful, honestly. I got all these rich-ass robot rolling in the dirt, and it's just horrible, right? So if we stay on the trajectory we're at, I don't want to see where film's going to go. You're going to have a couple people holding on to their roots, but they're not going to be necessarily successful. They won't have the money, the funding, the budgets, and yeah, it'll just hit in some weird state. And film, honestly, at the rate, if people stop enjoying making film, film will exist no more. And it's not a world I would like to live in, that's for sure. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think people need to realize that it's a tool. For sure, like, I know I'm a very clear stance on it, but I think that largely comes from the fact that people are so insistent on it and forcing people to make these changes. Like I was saying before, I had my work on my films, and they're coming up to me saying, we spent your budget on technology, you must use it. And that's not how I want to make my film with the technology that they're giving me, but they're removing my abilities to do things and forcing you to use it. So I think the second people are able to realize that AI is a tool you can use, but you necessarily shouldn't have to use, that's when real change can start to happen, and you'll see the real benefits of technology, CGI, AI usage, especially in the film industry. But yeah, does it answer your question?
Does that answer my question? Well, I mean...
Okay. I think I guess I lost a little bit of the question there, but yeah, I think on the current state of things, like I was kind of mentioning before, we're going to have a big divide in film, and a large part of it is going to be you got the mega blockbusters like I was mentioning before, the green suits, green mans, whatever, but instead of even having those teams that are working on it, we're going to be having completely AI generated stuff, and it's going to remove the entire personal feel of film in general, and it's going to be damaging a lot of people. And from that, people are still, obviously, like myself and a number of different people, are going to want to keep making film, working on it, but they're going to be working at a lot smaller rate. It's going to be like more indie style, and it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a question of, can they afford to have the technology that will allow them to make their films a bit better than they once were, like even like editing software and stuff like that. It's a necessary part of the process, but it's kind of a question of whether or not you can afford it or not, and it's going into a really bad state, in my personal opinion, with how it's going. And a lot of the problems now, I mean, you even see with the strikes, everyone's kind of struggling to get fair pay, which is a big problem, and without that, a number of individuals are not able to work on their own projects or work on themselves in the film industry, and on top of that, people losing their jobs, and they're getting less experience hands-on, and you're going to have less individuals with hard-working teams that can help make these giant projects an actual success. You're going to have a smaller group of individuals working with technology and kind of just closing off the window for opportunity for a lot of people. And we haven't seen a strike like anything like this since the 60s, and back then it was for things like health benefits and whatnot. But the fact that we've gone 60 years without an issue, and the second AI gets involved, and now we're having problems with pay, jobs, everything in between, it's crazy. So there's a clear problem in the industry, and it's going down a very bad rabbit hole, in my opinion.
Right. So you had mentioned in an interview before that voice actors are fighting for their intellectual property, which is their voice, or actors are fighting for their likeness, like in the case of Robert Downey Jr. In the Iron Man series. There's the potential of Disney, the MCU, Star Wars, all going down the path of being CGI based rather than actually having actors connecting inside of it because they're fantastical worlds. So, what do you think the resolution on this is going to be? Do you think that Disney is going to own the rights to the voices, or do you think that these actors are going to win out?
Well, as fucked up as it sounds, I would say the big guy's always going to win, especially in the film industry. What I've seen, I'm a director. I had a very high status when I worked with a number of these corporations, but it's clearly like they don't give a they're ready to whenever they need, and you know it's a horrible truth, really, at the end of the day. But yeah, they're willing to do whatever. They have the power. They got the legal power, and at the end of the day, people need to keep striking and letting people know so like that their voices matter too. Mm-hmm. And eventually, hopefully, we'll see a solution. However, at the current rate of things, we're not going to see that. That's for sure, because the film industry always wins.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on this episode with me, and I'd like to say, like, I think that this is going to be a big deal that you're saying this out loud to the world, to the internet. Is there, knowing that maybe you burned some bridges today, is there anything that you might want to say to these mega blockbuster companies like Disney and all that?
Yeah, I think I got one thing to say. Is you. All of you. You. I'm the best thing that's happened to this industry. Y'all me over one too many times. I'm gonna go make my own film industry. I'm gonna start making my own indie films, and you'll see the is the man then. You.
Stay tuned for next week when Vince Sterling interviews another AI expert.